it literally was like contract after contract after contract. First, we were the guys looking on the outside, looking in. And then now we're the guys on the inside looking out. And everybody's like working for us and contracting with us. And there were companies that had been on that base for 20 years. And now they're subcontracting underneath us. Okay, I'm going to build an army of good, high quality companies that we can fight the scrupulous people out here. So that's when I started teaching online. I'm like, okay, let me go train up people on everything that I know so that we can come back and fight. And I just started sharing everything that I knew, everything. I just poured out my heart on YouTube. There's no secret, man. We didn't invent this. You didn't invent this. I didn't invent it. So there's no point of keeping it to ourselves.
All right. Super excited. I got Eric here with GovCon Giants on the Construction Game podcast. Super excited to have you, Eric. Eric, can you walk us through how you first got started in government contracting?
Yeah, so it's interesting. When I first got started government contracting, I was at the Homestead Air Force Base down in Miami, and it was when the real estate market crashed. And so at that time, 2007, 2008, I mean, there was really no opportunities. Everything was crashing and burning. A lot like how people felt like during COVID, right? That happened, like everything was kind of stopped and frozen in time. And I remember at that time, I was flipping some houses. I was doing real estate, and someone said, "Hey, why don't you look into government contracts?" So I did. And then when I looked into government contracts, they were like, "Hey, they're still spending money." So that's like, I was like, "Okay, cool. I got time." So I started learning, started doing some smaller projects. I worked with a company that was a trades contractor. Started off with an HVAC guy. He was, 20 years my senior, but he had a staff, he had a team, and we started working together and start winning some small awards. And that's like how I got my first start.
Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, honestly, that was, it sounds like we got started in government contracting around the same time. And that was definitely one of the things that I really liked about government contracting, is whether it was a good time in the economy or a bad time in the economy, the government was always spending money and buying things, whether it was renovating their buildings. So that's great to hear that you were doing that. And then, so can you walk me through what kind of work were you doing for the feds, like your first, couple years in the space?
Yeah. So our first couple of years, we started off again doing a lot of trades work, right? Again, like I said, this guy was an HVAC contractor. I worked with a painting contractor. So we just started doing a lot of trades work, small renovation projects, nothing crazy, tearing out carpets, tearing out floors, remodeling the inside of offices. Nothing that you could really screw up anything too big, right? And I say that because I think people, that's a great way to start, because if you go out there and you can do something that you can like really jam up some things, that could be the death of you. So some roof repairs, like repairs, and then eventually we got into roof replacement, and then we start getting into like renovating. Like we did a lot of mold remediation type work. Offices down there were really infested with mold. Replaced some bathrooms, and then after a few, that was like in the first few years. That's what we did, a lot of that stuff. Like just nothing ground up, right? And mostly just, tearing offices apart and putting them back together. And that was good work. It was easy work. A few trades contractors, right? No long lead time products or items. Nothing, the worst thing I think we experienced was some of the safety systems, right? So some of the rooms, they had to have a special, like there's only one manufacturer that puts in that safety system. You got to pre-wire it for them. But outside of that, everything was like, a lot of off the shelf type of materials that we bought and we used to replace these projects.
Yeah, that's great. Especially like, coming out of the COVID period, like those long lead items. There is projects that literally I got 1 year and wasn't able to start until the next year, like a full 9 to 12 months later, because of just long lead items. So yeah, that definitely can have a huge impact on the project.
Right.
Now, were you self-performing these projects, or were you working directly for the government and then subcontracting this to like other people that were doing the work?
So we were the prime contractors on these projects. And like I said, if it fell within our trade, we self-performed it with our employees. Otherwise, we just, subcontract out some of the skill sets that we didn't have. So, a lot of again, when it came to the electrical, we subcontract out. Any of the like flooring stuff, we subcontract out. But it came to painting, drywall, any AC, HVAC type stuff, we all self-perform that work.
Got it.
Yeah.
So did you start off as directly working for the government as the prime, or did you do anything like from a subcontract standpoint?
No,
working for like somebody else.
No, okay, so it's interesting. So I came in, I was still, it wasn't my company. I was doing all the federal business development, but they didn't have any government work when I got there. So remember, this is the real estate market crash. I had got my contractor's license, but I didn't have any projects because there was no work to be done. But previously I had bought and sold real estate. I was a realtor. So I had, I bought a bunch of houses, fixed them up, sold them. We've owned residential real estate investments in my family since I was a little kid. So we've always had houses. We've always had rentals. I mean, and so renovating houses was like it was like second nature. We always had contractors around. Like that was, that was pretty easy for me. So when I met this individual who had this company, he said, well, if you can get the contracts, like, we can get it done. And I was like, okay. And then all the stuff that they couldn't do, I would just, I'd call people and get it done. So that we literally, there was no subcontract opportunities because they were small projects. It wasn't anything crazy. So no, we did we were primes. We didn't sub any work.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so that guy was he on pretty like stable financial ground when you guys first started going out those government contracts? So he was able to get like.
That was the benefit, right? So he had already been in business for 20 years. Now he wasn't a big company. He was only $2 million in revenue because he was a residential AC contractor, but financially he was stable. He had a team, he had an office staff, but they didn't help us bid none of this stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't help us. They helped. Like if it came to pricing HVAC, they helped. But when it came to anything else, I had to put those things together myself. Like I had to go out, get the quotes, and then figure out, markup, understand, start learning how to do all the administrative work. They didn't know any of that because they'd never done it before.
And that makes total sense. And then so like from a standpoint of like project size, were these projects big enough where you had to get payment and performance bonds on them?
Originally,
or were they small enough?
They were small enough. You didn't need them. But really quickly we started needing payment performance bonds.
Yeah, cool.
I mean, it didn't take that long before we had to start getting payment performance bonds.
Yeah, and then that's another reason why. Yeah, that's another reason why it's good to have someone that is financially stable, because now all of a sudden when they got to present financials and all of the paperwork to go get those bonds, they have that stuff in order. So that's great.
Yeah. No, it made it easy for us because he had like residential real estate that he owned that he can pull from to get lines of credit and to use as collateral. And so all of that. And I mean, and he, again, he had been doing this for 20 years. So he had, remember those guys bought those properties when they were super cheap. I mean, so he had all the appreciation, and I mean, so it was it was super easy.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so the way I got into the game was I was a subcontractor, and honestly, it was we were doing a subcontract work for like a large federal Department of Florida Department of Transportation contractor, and this contractor, had like $150 million contract, and we were just doing a small portion of it. We were doing the underground piping, and it was actually connecting Tampa, Florida to Orlando, I-4. We were doing all the underground piping there, and we were getting beat up so bad. Like we didn't negotiate. We were so excited to sign that subcontract that we didn't negotiate payment terms. We didn't negotiate retainage or any of this stuff. We were just so excited so happy to sign that contract. And we were getting beat up so bad. And I started looking around. I'm like, man, we're not making money here, but somebody is. And I was like, that GC, that prime con. And I was like, man, from there on, I was like, I'm working directly for the client. And that's when I set that goal of working directly for the client. And it's easy to set that goal. And then it took a year of constant going to the follow up and reaching out and emailing and going to the events and all that stuff to land our first project. But so getting your first project, like, what was that? Did you just, go to the sam.gov? Like, how did you end up landing your first project at Homestead?
So it's interesting. They knew someone that actually worked at the base, right? However, because they didn't know or understand federal procurement, they didn't even know how to leverage this person. So, and I'm like, wait, you have someone that works at the base? And by the way, they had someone that worked in contracting and procurement. And they'd known this person for years. Yeah. But they never bothered to ask them about working in the government because they were focused on residential business, right? And they were content, I would say. So when I brought it up, the whole subject, they had heard about government contracting, right? And it's interesting. I did a show last night with a guy that says a lot of times we're missing the opportunities. They're just going right by us and we just don't, like, we're not paying attention, right? Like they're going every day. You don't see it. So when I brought it up, and the first thing I said was, like, do you guys know anyone that happens to work at the base? They go, oh, yeah, we know this one guy. And I go, oh, give me his name. And what does he do? So we're not really sure, but, such and such knows this person. So I said, well, let's ask him. The guy worked in the contracting office. Wow. And they knew him for years. This wasn't like a new relationship. They knew him because it's a small town, a small area. A lot of these guys were in the military. They just had to ask. And then once they asked the guy, and then once we got them registered, then he started telling us about, like, hey, here's some opportunities that are coming out locally that are, that again, we just got to get 3 quotes for, and we could throw your name in the hat. And so we literally, again, the first things that we did were a lot of simplified acquisition. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but if you know anything about simplified acquisition, they don't have to go on sam.gov. They can be bid on a billboard inside the contract shop, inside the building. And so that's how we got those first opportunities. It was like, we were competing against 1 or 2 people. Yeah.
Yep. No, that's great. And yeah, awareness is huge. So this guy had been in business for 20 years. And he had never done a government contract up until that date.
He had never done a government contract himself. If he had sold to someone else who did the contract, but he had never made it an intentional action to pursue federal contracts. Like, and he was in the military. He's a veteran. By the way, he's a veteran also.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then after you landed your first one, how fast did you get your second one?
We became the incumbent within the first year. Okay. We just started knocking them out. Okay. Yeah. Like we just started, like, so it became, it just became like, it literally was like contract after contract after contract after contract. Again, all small, nothing big, 50,000, 75,000, 30,000, 25,000, 100,000. So it was nothing big, but we've got people now on site at different locations. You're seeing our trucks, you're seeing our badges, you're seeing our people, right? So now more people start seeing us and they start asking us to do things. And I'm pretty good at talking and I'm social. So I'm hanging around, I'm floating around offices, checking in. Hey, just coming to see my guys today. I hang around the contract shop and I'm like, you guys got anything, anybody got? And they're like, oh, in the commander's office, go talk to Judy. She's been complaining that she thinks there's mold there. And I'm like, all right, hey, Judy, I heard you said that there might be some mold. By the way, the contract people sent me to them because I don't think a lot of times we understand that the contractors they're not writing up the requirements. Like, it came from a user, the end user is given a problem. So they said, well, this end user's been complaining about like mold, blah, blah, blah. So I go, we'll go check it out. And then we go into her office. She goes, yeah, Eric, can you like bring some of your guys to come and like do some samples? And I go, sure, no problem. Take some samples, take it back to the lab, bring back the results. Hey, can you write up a scope of work for this and a price estimate? Sure, no problem. So, that's what I start doing. And I think a lot of people don't realize that you can do that for the government. The big companies, they all do it. The Leidos of the world, they write their own scopes of work. But I think a lot of small businesses, we don't realize that that's an option for you. So that's how we started. I just kept hanging around, asking people, the users, the end users, as I'm in buildings and stuff. Hey, what other, like, are you having any problems in this building? Like, oh my gosh, this freaking closet keeps leaking. I'm like, really? Where the electrical panel is? That closet? Yeah. And then I would just keep bringing it back to contracting.
Yeah. No, that's huge right there. I mean, you brought up some really good points, especially about awareness, right? Like, I remember for us, getting our first project was the hardest thing. But then once we understood how to actually navigate the contracting space, it was like, man, it was game on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one thing I remember that really stood out to me was, I had a mentor that would have been doing government work for like 20 years prior to me connecting with him. Right. Sure. And, I had submitted my proposal on my first government project, and obviously the contracting officer just comes back and is like, hey, you got to sharpen your pencil. Right. And my partner at the time, he's like, Oliver, do not touch the number. And I was like, man, I want the project. Well, let's just, just shave a little bit off. I want the project. He's like, do not touch the number. And I'm so grateful that I listened to him. And at that point, I was really nervous. I was like shaking in my boots, submitting the number, but I submitted it. And the next thing you know, they said they approved it. Right. And I was like, wow, like this is how you make money. Like I never could make money before because I was always giving it away.
You're giving away.
Right. But after I landed that first one, I was able to land that next one because my awareness was way greater in terms of like how to go and actually get these projects, right?
Absolutely.
And you mentioned that like you became the incumbent. And actually, what did you mean by the incumbent? When you say that? What do you mean?
Basically, we became the target now because we had majority of the contracts, and so kind of like we were the guys in there, like the in-house contractors that they were using for everything. And so people start targeting us saying, well, why are these guys getting all the contracts and how come they're doing all the work and how come they're not sharing the projects and all this kind of thing. And so that's what I mean by that. It's just basically, when we were the guys looking on the outside looking in, and then now we're the guys on the inside looking out, and everybody's like working for us and contracting with us. And I mean, to your point, there were companies that had been on that base for 20 years and 15 years, and now they're subcontracting underneath us.
Yeah.
But they actually never learned procurement. They never learned procurement.
Yeah. And honestly, I love finding those contractors that have been working on the base for 20 years. I mean, I'm not trying to recreate the wheel. Like, no, I just need you to now start sending me your proposals instead of sending them to the guy down the street.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people just wonder, like, where did we come from? Because we just popped up on the scene and now we have all these projects. That's the way that it looked like on the outside. But I mean, obviously it didn't happen that way, but just, the appearance to the people on the outside was that we just showed up from nowhere.
Yeah. But I mean, a lot of those other things that you're talking about, like writing the scopes of work, getting proposals ahead of time. So the government actually has an accurate budget. I mean, those are all things that I remember doing as well, and you're adding value. Like they're not paying you for that. And like you do it for 100 jobs. They're not going to move forward with all 100 jobs. Like you've spent a lot of time, energy, and effort on a lot of projects that don't move forward. But the ones that do move forward, you kind of have the inside scoop. Like you already know what the pricing is looking like. You already know what the scope is, so you don't have to worry about like, oh, did I miss something? So that's awesome. That's really good.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't think about that. Like you said, we went out and did their work for them. We went out, tested the wall, sent it to a lab, paid for it to be tested, right, and then gave them the report. Which that's something that they could have done, probably should have done, but they didn't do. And therefore this problem persisted. And, so fortunately, and it was in a commander's office, which makes it even worse.
Well, adding tremendous amounts of value. And it's like, man. And
they were so grateful. They were grateful for it.
And you're wondering why you were all the way all throughout everybody's offices getting all these awards and contracts. So
yeah, people, they loved us. They loved us. Great. So yeah.
So at your prime, like how many projects were you guys getting a year in terms of dollar value?
With that particular company, we never got past $2 million a year in contracts with that particular company. And that's why we kind of broke up because, the owner didn't have a bigger vision for like where to go with the contract. Right. And to be fair, so I started with this one owner. He was an HVAC company. Then I start working with another owner who's a painting company, and that's where we kind of capped out the one. And so he just said, "Well, Eric, bigger contracts, bigger risk." And so I remember this vividly because we're all still friends to this day. Like we're all friends. We hang out. We travel together. Even 18 years later, we vacation together. But he regrets that because his vision was limited. And so I was trying to bring in bigger opportunities, 5 million, 8 million. And he was like, nah, I don't want to do it. He goes, Eric, we're making good money. What's the problem? Like we're eating. And I'm like, yeah, but we're not maximizing our potential here. Like we're doing well. And mind you, again, I'm in my late 20s. So I'm doing well financially. We're making great money. But I'm like, but we're not, but I'm bored and we're not using our total like capacity. So that's where we, had to separate because I just, even in the SBA said we were failing because we weren't hiring people. They didn't want to hire staff. So he wanted to keep all the money. They don't want to start bringing on engineers, project managers. They're like, oh, we could keep managing it in-house. I'm like, no, we can't. Like we need to hire a superintendent, and no, we're doing just fine. You manage the project. I'm doing the paper. Like, just the vision wasn't there.
Yeah. So what did you do next? So you got
next I
didn't work out there. Then what was next?
Next, I broke off on my own,
and then you started going to get your own contracts with the
I started getting my own contracts directly. Yeah, and steel buildings. So that's where I started the steel building company. I already had my LLC, but literally, I said, "Hey, I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna." But in fairness, it did allow me to build up capital for my company. Yep. So I did have capital. Yep. I had past experience working on a government basis. I had done, I had several years of understanding it. And so then my very first contract with my company was like 1.5 million.
Boom. Let's go. It's awesome. Yeah.
And
you knew how to execute on it. I was like, yeah.
So my first contract when you had was 1.5. Yeah.
Got it. And when you had your company at your biggest, like how many contracts were you getting a year?
Contracts per year. So we weren't doing volume because we did steel buildings. So at my peak, probably I would say we had like $5 million in contracts, total contracts, right? But we weren't doing volume because we put up a steel building. It might be $500,000, 800,000, $1.2 million. So we didn't really do like when we started doing that, there wasn't really any smaller 50K, 100K type work. Yeah, the smaller. Yeah. We did some stuff like that for people like washout, but our primary work was like for say $500,000 to like $2.5 million range.
Got it.
Of project sizes. So that's the stuff that we did. And it was just bigger work. And then I did, like I said, I did one project that was like nearly $6 million.
Got it. Ooh,
but all self-performed. My crews, my guys, my people. Yeah. But again, so this one we weren't subbing out anything because we were standing up buildings. So I wasn't subbing out any work. Like we, I had trucks and we had guys in a row. We had freaking hammer guns and nail guns and screw guns. Like we had all this stuff. Like we had the joints. So like we had I had a facility out of Miami that we had a shop, and then they pulled in the trucks and go out to the job sites in the morning and disperse and take all this stuff. So we had a full shop.
Were you doing all the concrete foundations and all that stuff, or were they already in place?
From the foundation up. So I picked it up. Okay. From the anchor bolts up is where we started.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. That's so great. From anchor bolts, that's where we took over.
Got it. So you had your business that was doing the steel erection.
Mm-hmm.
How long did you have that business, and then what did you transition to after that?
So I had that business for about 8 years. Okay. And what happened was a couple things. One is I got cocky. I'm a young guy. It happens when you're younger. So I'm a young guy.
Yeah.
We're doing well. So, relatively, right? And then I started pursuing non-government contracts. So I started pursuing commercial contracts with commercial companies. And I got screwed over a couple times, really bad.
Yeah.
I think I heard one of your things about payment and not being paid. And so we got, that happened to me on 2 projects at the same time, and it crushed me. So I had 2 projects, again, non-government commercial projects. Cause again, I'm like, okay, I want to expand. To your point, I'm like, okay, we're at 2 million. How do we go to 5? So I'm like, the government doesn't have any still building stuff coming out. So like, I need to go expand beyond federal contracts. So I won some commercial work, and then both of them didn't pay me like at the same time. And so I was floating these crews and these people working, and one was like in Georgia, one's in Florida, and I'm like floating all these crews, floating housing, floating transport, like floating everything, and they're not paying me. And so we end up on one of the projects, we just had to we had to pull off. Like, I'm like, bro, I can't. And so of course I defaulted on my contract because I pulled off, and then, then they threatened to sue me, and then they eventually did sue me. So I basically was going through 2 lawsuits at the same time.
Yeah. That's a big part of the construction game that nobody really talks about, is the lawsuit game, right? The legal part. And honestly, we just went through our own legal lawsuit. Like, we were the prime. We had a subcontractor that didn't perform. We obviously told them to get off the site. They got off the site, but then all of a sudden they had a subcontract was a couple $100,000, and then they submitted an invoice for $460,000. So doubled their contract amount.
Sure.
Then hires this attorney that runs up a massive tab, right? $400,000. We're not even at trial yet. So now it's just like, but they're coming after us. So you got to protect yourself. You got to get legal representation. They're running up a tab, as well. And it's just the legal game, can be crazy in construction, but crazy. you gotta have it tight, though, because you can get taken to the cleaners, literally taken to the cleaners.
And I had I was in a group called Entrepreneurs Organization, EO, and so I had some mentors in there that had been through similar experiences, and they kept me like encouraged. And I remember, to your point, she had an employee that she fired because he had stolen some things. Like, he was at an airport contract and he stole like fuel or something, right? And so she terminated him from his contract, but he sued her for like racial discrimination or something to that effect, even though he was fired for stealing. And so she ended up having to fight one of those lawyers, right? And her attorney recommended she settle. She says, I can't settle because of the integrity. Like, what am I settling for, firing someone for stealing my job? So she ended up winning the court case, but she cost her $50,000.
Yeah.
So did she win at the end of the day? When she could have settled for 10, let's say, right? But she won. She said, I want to set a precedent so that other people wouldn't come behind and think that they're just going to come sue me randomly and be a pushover. So to your point, people don't talk about these things. This is real life stuff, that these are just tactics that people use to get money, extract money out of you unscrupulously. And that's what happened to me in one of the lawsuits. I was very fortunate. My insurance company picked up the tab for my attorney's fees. And so so that was like, that's a lesson I share with anybody. And so the attorney fees were covered. So I was like, I didn't have to worry about it. And I ended up beating them. But if I had to pay for the attorney fees, I would have lost because I couldn't afford it to, because they strung out my money. But they sued me for They actually owed me $300,000, and then they sued me for $700,000. And then, so it's $1 million difference. And then we ended up settling that. Basically, I had to pay them, I think it was $2,000 or $4,000. And then I had a deductible of my insurance, so I paid $2,000 out of the pocket.
Yeah.
But I mean, the whole thing was it was just confusion, and it was just a distraction from working, and it was just a lot. You can't.
That's probably the most expensive thing right there is the distraction. And all of a sudden you're spending time doing discovery and producing all these documents, emails, text messages, all this craziness, and then all of a sudden you're taking this time away from the business and growing the business and taking the business to the next level.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to me. So going back, that's when, when that happened to me, that's when I had, I go into a little bit further story, but basically on the second lawsuit, I was dealing with it. One of my suppliers that I owed like $30,000 to, I told him a story. I go, listen, these people didn't pay me. They owe me this money. I can't pay you. You know me, I've always been good. I've never defaulted. And he said, and he was, again, this was an older guy as well. And he said to me, when you started in business, what did you enjoy about construction? I said, I never lost money in government contracts. He says, go back to that. And he says, I'm never going to call you again about this invoice. He says, because I was in your shoes. I was doing $10 million a year in construction, and I lost my business because of fraudulent lawsuits. He says, so I know exactly what you're going through. And he says, I'm not going to add any additional pressure on you. And he literally wiped my debt clean. It was like $30,000. And so that was for me, it's like that triggered for me to go back to just focusing on federal. And that's what I did. And so I came, on one of the lawsuits, I beat it. The other one I settled. I owed him like $250,000. I did a promissory note to pay it back in 5 years. I paid $5,000 a month payments. And then I went back to grinding, looking for government contracts, won a couple contracts. And then it allowed me to basically get back to zero and then start to climb up again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So then that was like a new company doing work for the feds?
No, same company. I never filed bankruptcy.
Okay.
Same company. Cool. My same company. I didn't start a new entity. I never filed bankruptcy. I just I stuck in there. I fought, and I accumulated a lot of debt, and I ended up paying it all back. Everyone. So I made everyone whole.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, same thing here, man. We were $500,000 in the hole when I was telling you that story about, and I was like 26 years old. I mean, I had never even made six figures up to that point. I mean, I was scared. I was like petrified of everything, and, but at the same time, like we're talking about here is focus. I mean, you talk about being focused, like, all of the distractions, wanting to hang out with my friends, out the window, all of that stuff. And it was just pure, I got to get contracts.
Sure.
I was scared. I didn't even know how to talk to people. Right. I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to get these government contracts. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to fumble and dumble until I get my pitch perfected to be able to go get these contracts. And that's exactly what I did, and like that level of certainty is the same level of certainty that I require out of each of my team members, right? That we got on the team. Like, I know you're scared. I know you're this. I know you're that. But keep moving forward, keep moving forward, So
absolutely.
Yeah. And we end up paying everybody back too. So I love that story. It's
one of the things I tell people, and I know this, again, when we were talking before we start recording and you tell me where you're at and why you're there, I have never shared the stage with anyone who didn't have those kind of stories. I haven't. I've never been on stage with someone that's winning an award that didn't have that story. And so people want to be on stage, but they don't want the story.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like, just, you go back to your own background. And I mean, I don't know, like, I've spoken at a lot of places and it's not much different.
Yep. That's
just
great.
Been my experience. So yeah, I would expect that from you.
Sir. Yes, sir.
I would.
So then continuing on. So you're now doing government contracts yourself, but then also what else do you do with the government contracts?
Basically when I started back again, I started doing government contracts again. This time, because again, I had no money. I couldn't hire a team. So I subcontracted everything out and I just managed the project. And so during that time, I told myself that one, I was really upset with some of the people that took advantage of me. And I want to get them back. And so the only way that I knew how to do that, I was like, okay, I'm going to build an army of good, high quality companies that we can fight the scrupulous people out here, right? The malicious, the evil people. And that's the way I saw it. So that's when I started teaching online I'm like, okay, let me go train up people and everything that I know so that we can come back and fight those companies, right? And that really was my motivation. So with this last contract that I was doing, because I wasn't actually performing the work and I was subbing out, I had a lot of free time. So that's when I started making YouTube videos in 2017. And I just started sharing everything that I knew, everything. I just poured out my heart on YouTube and just like, hey, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this, and I did this. And I just started sharing with people everything that I knew and all the experiences that I had. And that's what I did. And I started building, I'm like, I'm going to build up a whole bunch of people and I'm going to teach. And I said, I'm just going to teach everybody everything I know. They can do what they want with the information, but I'm going to put it out here because I don't want to be in a situation where I start climbing up again and something could happen to me. And I'm like, I could have given back to others at the same time. And I chose not to. And that's what I did.
Yeah. And that's really interesting. And I mean, that's something that I've kind of struggled with, my whole government contracting career is because it's such a secretive space, right? I mean, we were doing tens and millions and millions and millions of dollars of work, and we didn't even have a website.
Right.
We didn't even have a website. It was this secret underworld, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then you're seeing, you're hearing about other businesses on YouTube or these social platforms, and it's like, wow, wow, they're really, sharing the value and but it really resonated with me because I remember back in 2011 when I really wanted this information, I would just go to the SBA.gov site and it didn't give you the roadmap. It didn't give it to you. But I needed the roadmap. I was $500,000 in the hole. I needed to figure out how to get these projects. So that really, 100%. I can totally relate to that a lot.
Yeah, man. I had the choice. I'll tell you, this is funny. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm making this money. I always want to do a trip to China, and I'm like, spend 6 months in China. I'm like, I could go to China right now, or I could do something bigger than myself and build something that is long lasting. And so I chose the latter. I still never been to China. But I can tell you this. I mean, I have an incredible community of people. And, I've been here only, like I said, 6-7 weeks. I've been out every day, lunch, dinner with different people. I've met secretaries of different DoD branches, colonels, generals, all because of my social platforms. So I've been at the Army Navy Club twice this week having lunch. Former Secretary of the Air Force, former Secretary of the Navy, Undersecretary. So people call me. I know people in this administration, I know people in the previous administration. I know it all came through this. So me giving back is giving me so much more. And that's what we all know this and we all hear this, right? We read it and most people are spiritual in some way and they know that, right? But they don't do it. And so I can say that, we're just beginning, and the amount of opportunities that are flowing into us from what we've done for people is limitless right now. And that's why I moved here.
Yeah.
Because because it's just limitless. And so I just tell anybody listening to this, because again, it's a secret. Everybody keeps secrets, but there's no secret, man. We didn't invent this. You didn't invent this. I didn't invent it. No. So there's no point of keeping it to ourselves. I didn't make this stuff up. These rules existed before we got here. They're going to exist when we're gone. So, I freely give of the information to people. And I don't think of nothing of it because I think in abundance.
Yeah. No, totally 100%. Totally agree. And at the same time, I mean, I'm running the next problem that I got is we're a small business, right? Or we're considered a small business, but they got like size qualifications, right?
Sure.
We don't even qualify for like half of these like small business qualifications anymore, right? So, because like we've grown in size. So it's like, great. So I can help the next group of people get those type of contracts. And, you know, hey, if they even want to, if there's an opportunity where we can even subcontract the work from them, or just you just take the knowledge and you run it down yourself and run the play yourself, then great. You know, so it's, the government space is an interesting space. And, you know, again, one of the reasons why I got here and wanted to do this space is because during good times and bad times, the government's always spending money. And then number two was that even during a government shutdown, even I'm going through it right now. The government just opened back up. We kept moving forward on all of our projects. Why? Because I knew when they got back in office, they were going to start issuing payments. I mean, the amount of payments that we got approved between yesterday and today is just, it was like, you know, 700,000. It was like for the same job, another 300. It was just nonstop because we had so many like kind of that got added up over the last, you know, 30, 45 days or whatever. So, but they all got approved and they're all getting uploaded into their system to now then be paid, you know? But, you know, if you're doing it in the commercial side, like, you know, you just never know. You just never know. You never know.
Good luck.
Yeah. So
cool. Dope.
Cool. Good stuff. So yeah, how do people connect with you?
I'm everywhere. I mean, I'm number one in terms of, I mean, my number one platform is LinkedIn, right? So number two platform is YouTube. So you can find me on YouTube or LinkedIn. My last name is Coffie, Coffie. First name is Eric, Eric. So we're always putting out the information everywhere. And you know, like now that I'm in the DMV area, we're gonna be doing more events. We're going to be, you know, I want to make GovCon fun. So I want to bring more young people into the space. I want to make it fun. You know, last year at our conference, we had a white party. We chartered a yacht. We brought a couple hundred people on. So, I mean, we did at the Fountain Blue. Like, we just did some different stuff that was not, you know, that didn't isolate people or turn them off from the industry because, you know, everyone had to come in blue suits and blue ties and all that formality crap, you know, like it just discourages people that I think are very talented and have something to offer. And we need to build our industrial base. So we're going to do fun things, innovative things. And I'm going to bring my Miami tactics and antics up to DC.
I'm excited, man. When you said you're here in Virginia, I was like, man, that's it was music to my ears. I'm right here in DC. I can't wait to connect with you further.
I can't wait to go have lunch. I can catch up and tell you what we're working on. And I already know we're going to be able to do stuff together.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Looking forward to it.
Same here.
Appreciate it, bro.
All right. Thanks.
Cool.